All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Thrive stream for the 0.8.1 release. Here today, we've got me, Aaron M. Kirsch. I am on the sound team. We've got Bolsa. If you'd like to say hello in the chat, you can. Bolsa is on the graphics team.
Hang on, let me scroll the chat. I was in the art contest winners. There we go.
All right. We've also got Game Dungeon on the programming team.
Hello.
Hello. We've, of course, got Hyberlainen, lead programmer.
Hello.
We have Juzo Lens on the theory team. And hello, joining just now, we've got Deus, or Deus, on the game design team.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
You sure
Yes.
can.
Cool. Okay. Should I introduce myself or we
Go
don't have
ahead.
that part yet? Okay. I'm the game design team lead for Thrive. I help make a lot of concepts and I help give feedback on new mechanics implemented. Happy to be here.
We've also got Mr. 42, who is on the outreach team and also contributes some graphics work.
Outside
And
of testing, that's full team representation.
yep. And that's everyone we have for today.
I'll scroll
Should
back
I-
up to the art contest winners.
Yes. So, in first place, we have the artwork Brine Crawler by Pester Jest. Very nicely done. I personally enjoy the little diagram and the information about the creature you've got here.
That's kind of how that's kind of how I imagine the macroscopic stage will look ultimately. So it looks very nice.
And in second place, we have the artwork Boreworm on Akhtar by Lanky Giraffe. Very nicely done. Good composition. And in third place, we have the artwork titled Species That Deal with Extreme Temperatures by Trappist. I very much enjoy this one as well. I like how the background is rendered, and I enjoy the sort of desolate feeling that this one creates. Congratulations to our winners, and thank you to everyone who submitted artwork this time around in the contest. And I'm very excited to see how future contests go as well.
If someone still hasn't received their title prizes, then I think you need to contact Mr. 42. Still. As I promised to manage from the admin side of things, those giving out those titles, and I haven't done any yet, so I'm waiting to hear back from him first. Also, seems like YouTube is warning about bitrate, but funnily enough, it seems like I'm using a different encoder this time than last stream, so the resolution should be correct. But it looks like the encoder uses just like 2 megabits when nothing is changing on screen. But YouTube is complaining that the bitrate is too low.
Interesting. Deus, since you didn't get a chance to hear before you joined, would you like to take over reading some of the community questions?
Sure. Yeah.
Or maybe Deus can start off by reading the patch notes for this
Yeah, we
thing,
have.
because
We forgot
we
about that.
usually start with those. So let's
Of
go
course.
over those next. Like what happened.
Okay. Will do. Just give me a second to pull up some notes. But
I'll
8.1
put the
release.
full
I'll go ahead.
full link in
Oh,
the chat.
thank you.
So if someone wants to check those.
Well, the big name brand for this update is environmental tolerances, which have been a very requested feature for as long as Thrive has been around. Now you have to adapt to the conditions of your environment beyond just the metabolisms available to you. So you must be aware of temperature, pressure, sunlight, and is there one more I'm forgetting? Pressure, temperature, sunlight,
Oxygen.
oxygen. Yes, oxygen. Yeah, I read. Yeah, the big three, or the big four. And being outside of your preferred conditions in a patch results in negative impacts on your osmoregulation and auto-evo, while being in your preferred habitat with specific adaptations, having a narrower bound range allows you to get some gameplay benefits. So that'll hopefully be a rewarding system to engage with. It is important that we get balancing for it right. It's pretty new and important system. So if you have any feedback, do share with us on community forums and on our Discord. Also, a big new feature, or I guess two new features, our introduction of new diets. We have radiotrophy and we have thermosynthesis now, or I guess a revamp of thermosynthesis, which was an existing diet. Radiotrophy involves, the consumption of radioactivity, basically. We've implemented radioactive trunks in the world of Thrive, specifically in hydrothermal vents and in some caves. You must balance your tolerance with radiation with the melanosomes that you can now evolve and put on your organism, which if you optimally balance, you get a lot of free energy from it. But uranium or radiation is more of a rare material, and you can, it often serves as an environmental hazard. So, we didn't ping the community Discord. Thermosynthesis, on the other hand, it already was an existing mechanic in Thrive, but it's received a lot more of a in-depth update. It's got a lot more flesh on its bones now. It's a theoretical metabolic process, which is basically based on temperature gradients. And in Thrive, we have now introduced variations in across within your own patch, local variations in temperatures that you can toggle with a temperature screen or a temperature view if you have the required parts. And you get energy by going from periods of lower thermal energy to periods of higher thermal energy within the patch. So if you go from a colder patch to a warmer patch, you get free energy, which has been a pretty interesting mechanic to see implemented. One of our developers fully went through with a radioactivity and a thermosynthesis build, and he said it was pretty challenging and pretty unique. So that's a challenge for anyone in the community if you want to try something new. We've also implemented, a good amount of work to the patch map. Now you can more clearly see connections to other regions from the patch region you inhabit currently. So it's no longer just a game of, just moving all around your environment or moving all around the patch map, trying to see where the link to the next patch is or the next patch region is. You can now specifically see it and more easily get to that point. Yeah, there's a good graphic for it. If you see the green lines, you can see the direct patch which connects to other patches and where those patches ultimately end up. More exciting, a lot more has been done in this update. You know, for example, we made microbe stage backgrounds are enabled by default, and we've added a blur to it, which makes our visuals look a lot more crisp, professional. We've done some work on our report panel. You know, we've kind of reorganized some graphs to make it more easy to read. You know, put more important information up front for the player to address, and also included more in-depth statistics in your editor, which hopefully makes a lot more accessibility in the editor and a lot more kind of focus on the player on different aspects of your organism. And ultimately, there's a lot of fixes, new software chunks. A lot has went into this new update. AutoEvo is now able to evolve different new abilities that previously weren't accessible, such as mucocysts. So read the full patch notes on our GitHub and our release, and we hope that you enjoy the release. Is there anything I'm forgetting specifically, or I think that covered most bases?
Yeah, I think at least all of the major stuff.
Yeah.
There's still, of course, work to be done, like the map sometimes draws lines under the patches, so that's like not optimal for understandability yet, and of course the tolerances feature will need further additions, probably coming then in the next release.
Yeah, and there's a MP bug sometimes with tolerances that'll probably get patched up pretty soon. But the baseline for it was implemented, and you know, thank God it's here finally, because it's been requested for a long, long time. Okay, should we move on to questions now?
I think we can preemptively answer the question of what's going to be in the next release.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I know we haven't had like the release planning thread yet, but maybe people can answer some of the stuff they have like their mind.
I'm gonna try to be more involved with this release cycle than I was with this past one. I'll be specifically playtesting different parts of Thrive and working on balancing. Overall, it's pretty fun, but you know, there's always some rough edges we can hash out. So I'll try to devote a lot more time to figuring that out.
Recently, I've been super busy, so I haven't got the chance to contribute much to Thrive this update. Next update, I should be less busy, so I'll get some more stuff done. I'm thinking about rewriting part of the mutation system for AutoEvo, because I think I can improve its performance quite a bit.
Oh, that would be very nice. Also, if you have maybe just some time, could you look at my probably really horrible implementation of the environmental tolerances to the meshes? So
I can do that.
that's, I mean, I didn't even have time to like fully test it, so it might be doing really silly things, but at least no one has complained about it in the release feedback yet.
We got some typing in the chat. Huh. Looks like a pretty productive release cycle we have slated up.
Yeah, I think I already said a bit about what's still needing to be done for the tolerances. So I guess I didn't say that like the primary thing is of course any bug fixing for the tolerances, as I'm sure there's a bunch. But then we'll need to add the feature where organelles will affect the tolerances automatically. That was something that I didn't have time to implement for this release, so I will do that in the next release. And in general, I think I need to rework the editor mutation point calculation stuff, because it's, well, I can see that it's really beautifully crafted system, but it's just so complex that even I don't manage to like use it correctly. So there's various bugs with the mutation point calculation with the tolerances. So I think I need to like redo that in order to make things work nicely. And I think maybe the Mac version stuff, there's a few more general issues like render scaling, etc. That the Mac version would really benefit from. So I think I'll be working on some more backend stuff for the next release than this one, so that we can get the Mac version out. And maybe if I prioritize it, maybe we'll get like a graphics preloading system, so there won't be as many like frame rate spikes during gameplay, because I've noticed that with all of the different chunk types added, etc., it's getting pretty bad, the initial hitching of the game when you just start moving.
Yeah, with the sulfur and the radioactivity, it's getting very busy on the screen.
Yeah, and busy in terms of how many different shaders there are and textures to load. So right now we are relying on the game engine just loading any textures when an object pops in. So that causes lag spikes during gameplay.
Looking at the release map, I might be able to do some of the auto evo stuff from it. Just different calculation changes.
Yeah,
the only other big name item on that is planet generation, which is going to be a release cycle on its own.
Yeah, I think I don't foresee 0.8.2 to get the planet generation yet.
I think that's something fine to implement, relatively simply at first, and then just expand as time goes on. Because, hyperbolic is going to do a lot of work regardless going on. So I think it's fine if we do some initial, not saying it should be done for next release cycle, of course, but we don't have to like go crazy before 1.0 on everything that has to do with the planet generator or editor. Oh, hello. This is Hexbot Philosopher. His mic is a bit, oh no, that might have just been some echo, but he's one of our graphics programmer, and he helped a lot with making some of the new chunks, especially for sulfur.
And radioactivity.
Oh yeah.
Can't forget about the new radioactive pulsating effect that just made it into the release, wasn't pushed back. I saw someone comment on the Discord that the stream is a bit quiet, so I guess I'm going to crank the sound sliders a bit so that the bars go into the red area more often.
Nice.
Guess I shouldn't put it too high, because if the sound starts clipping, then it's going to sound really terrible.
In the meantime, should we move on to answering some questions? No?
Yeah, I think it's time. I'll put the priority questions on stream.
Okay.
So here are the usual Doom Lightning's questions. Who's the most active VIP patron we have?
Okay. Well, let's begin. For Doom Lightning, as Carlin said, one of our favorite users on the forums. It is once again my time to fill the VIP gap that almost always happens. Starting with question 1, what are your thoughts on magnetism in the game as we know, a magnetic field and magnetism in general is something very significant about life, and I would like to know if you have any thoughts on this. Whether or not it is planned to address it in initial stages, or at least in the construction of the planet, if it occurs. I'm not fully familiar with its effect on life, so I haven't really thought much about it, but obviously it's important for keeping a planet healthy. I can imagine it being an attribute in the editor, maybe, but we have to first think of some gameplay effects to attach to it. And that might be a level of simulation that is maybe too overwhelming for the player to consider, because, you know, not everyone thinks about that.
I think this is one of the features that would be added like once pretty much everything else is already in the game.
Yeah. Because it's a very... Were you going to say something, Game Legend?
Specifically, I think the main effect it has is on planet generation and keeping atmospheres. So when we're writing that, we might consider that. But beyond that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's something I was thinking too. And the thing is, if you're not on a planet where you have a sufficient magnetic field, then you're not going to play much of the game, because everything's going to die, basically. Oh, that's cool. Perhaps in weaker magnetic fields on planets, maybe radiation is a lot more important of a diet, as Juicer Lens mentions. But yeah, I guess the answer is it's probably not an immediate focus, but we can attach cool effects to it later down the line if we see a opening for it.
I'll interject here to say that I increased the sound sliders quite a bit, and maybe someone in the chat can tell me that if the sound levels are better now, or should I turn them down? Is there some issue? But we can move on to the next question.
Okay. Okay, number 2, with the increase in the number of suggestions for achievements, what types of achievements are you planning to add, if any? If so, will they have an impact like progression, or is it more of a challenge for players, or is it just cosmetic? We got a lot of achievement suggestions on the forums. A lot of them can be very niche, and you know, we have to be pretty hands-on and direct with when it comes to defining what exactly achievement is. Obviously the micro stage takes the most priority, but I think ultimately, you know, at least the way I think of progression or achievements, I don't see them much as a progressive element, more as just a badge of honor of saying, hey, I did this, like most achievements in most games. So that's at least my take on the thing. But go ahead.
We've talked about achievements before. The main thing holding us back is actually just the sheer amount of art they would require. You would need to get an artist to like draw 40 things or whatever.
Well, I mean, there's achievements on the roadmap, and well, if we reach that point that we should be implementing them, and it falls on me, then we'll use one icon per stage, like as a placeholder until we get more art. And I've been thinking that to start off like something like 10 achievements per stage would be a pretty good goal or target. So we just have some basic 10 achievements for the microbe stage and not consider any of the crazy ideas from the forums.
Yeah.
Programmers doing art scares artists into action.
Yeah, I want to see Harlena do some paint. That'd be fun. There was one community forums user, this might have been like 5 years ago or something, but they posted a lot of art for achievements. So maybe if they're still around, they can give some ideas.
Yeah, they were actually pixel art, and I remember that someone like returned within like a year or so and drew a few more of those achievement icons, but yeah, they are mostly for the more silly achievements, so we
Yeah.
need to coordinate on the more realistic achievements. Like I was thinking about like microbial massacre or something, like get 50 kills and do an editor cycle without chasing anything, or stuff like that.
It'd be funny to see with how our traditional win condition was with, have 15 successful generations. That'd be a funny little Easter egg reference to
I've
legacy
been
concept.
thinking that because, at the same time as achievements are added, I plan to hook up the Steam system for those. So we shouldn't have like achievements that don't make sense in the later versions of the game or anything like that, because people couldn't get them, and the achievement percentages would be pretty silly. So I think we should have something like reach multicellular states, like edit your species for the first time, stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And maybe a few specific food source ones or something like that to encourage experimentation a bit.
Yeah, because the achievements on the forums, a lot of them are like enslave a species while living on a black hole on the third planet away from it, or something like that. So we have to be a bit more prunish with them.
Yeah, and many are so super specific that there's no way that let me just read. People are okay. Here's one of the latest achievements. Create a photosynthetic organism that can survive for several generations without sunlight, which is basically suggesting that we should have exploitable game mechanics and have a specific achievement for those.
Or just the player evolves something that is not adapted at all to its environment.
Well, yeah, but then they shouldn't be able to play for multiple generations, because that talks about that's like game balance is like wrong, that you can play so long without being able to actually do anything, like survive.
Flipping that on its head would actually be a good achievement, though. Survive exclusively on photosynthesis.
Yeah, with no mitochondria or something.
Being able to survive without moving around.
Yeah, just sugar. Pure sugar. Okay. I'll move on to the third question. But if anyone has any other favorite achievements they want to bring up, then by all means do it. Okay, number 3. With the addition of the new stage, which I assume is macroscopic, they're referring to, what do you think differentiates the old version from the new version? Does it open up more possibilities for you in terms of how the gameplay plays out in the stage compared to the previous one, or is it something completely different? I think it's less of a direct change to what we want to simulate and more of just a different way of organizing concepts. Because we were planning to have the macroscopic stage in the game regardless, but we just referred to it as late multicellular and had a more kind of abstract difference between late multicellular, as we called it, and early aware. So it lets us just be a lot more clean when it comes to organizing specific concepts around those stages. I know Game Dungeon was a very loud advocate for this change. So
yeah, I think we maybe should have written specifically a full blog post about this change, but oh well, we'll be explaining it forever until we get to the macroscopic development stage.
You were saying, Game Dungeon?
Like Dia said, it's basically always been in the game. It's just we were referring to it as late and early multicellular for the longest time. That kind of just led to confusion, so formally separating them is good.
Yeah, it's more of a rethink of thought than it is a specific new feature or new, stage. Okay. Number 4. Right? Yeah, number 4. Did you ever consider creating custom organelles? For example, combining several proteins or organelles particles to create a new organelle, as it is thought to have happened with the R of the peroxisome? If so, what made you abandon this idea? Harlena would like to say something about that.
Yeah, the back-end implementation would be a total nightmare. Like I do not want to consider it, because basically we'd have to have one entire release where I do nothing but that one feature. If someone else wants to attempt it and open a behemoth pull request, like, be my guest, but I don't foresee anyone else also wanting to do that or succeeding if they start. Even these environmental effects were pretty difficult to put into the game architecture this late into the development, and felt like it would have been way better to know about 2 years ago that we need to add this at some point.
Before I joined the official team, one of my community posts was an endosymbiosis concept, where you would have to create your own organelle out of the things that you ate. So you'd combine, I don't know, like a hydrogen sulfide with a metabolosome, and you'll end up with something that, creates or consumes sulfur immediately and turns it into ATP or whatever. And that sounded like a cool idea, but then the implications on balance and, not even mentioning the work on balance and accuracy and, what would the art look like? What would things translate to in future stages? It kind of resulted in a bit of a mess. So it might be an interesting thing to consider for anyone crazy enough to take it. But it's not canon by any means.
There is a blob of game features that fall under the category of, that would be really cool, but I don't want to figure out how to program that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. We'll go to question 5. As people freak out about Vim's presence in the chat. 5. From a technological perspective of your team, what do you think is the most complex thing to add/change to the game, mechanics or appearance? I bet it's creating the metaballs for the macroscopic stage. Does anyone have anything that sticks out in their mind?
And again, all of it.
Yeah. The thing that scares me the most, in a way, is procedural animation, because we kind of have some sort of start on a lot of the rest, I feel like, but with that, it's kind of up in the air. So.
That's the technology specifically that made Spore famous.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've seen some demos of people figuring it out on like Reddit or whatever with pre-made models, but if you combine that with something that you have to kind of create yourself and expect that to dynamically move in a realistic way, then that kind of is scary. Any other things that stick out in the minds of people? Or?
Did we move on to the question 5?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, sorry, I was checking Discord if anyone mentioned about the volume change. From my perspective, anything that requires refactoring major parts of the game, like those are the most scary things, because they will break a bunch of features, introduce new bugs, and take multiple releases to really iron out. And I won't have. Well, if I have to do them, then I don't have time to do any major new features. So people will see releases that don't have much content at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll move on to question 6. Have you the idea of finding another source of money to support the game? I know it sounds strange, but I feel like the world is getting more and more greedy, and I don't know if the money from Patreon like us can support the cost of the game like it used to. I'm speaking for myself, of course. I mean, there's a lot more financial insecurity in the world right now. So I'm sure that has an impact on, crowdsourcing ventures. But we've been having discussions on different means. Obviously, the financial status of the game is very important for us because that's the best way we can guarantee development. And it's the easiest way to develop Thrive in the future and guarantee Thrive development in the future. So if I'll plug in the Patreon now. If anyone wants to donate to the Patreon, please do. We'd really appreciate it. And if anyone wants to support the game by purchasing a copy on Steam, then that'd be greatly appreciated.
I'll put the Patreon link in the chat if anyone wants to check it out. We've been having more patrons leave in the past few months than join, so if anyone has some spare cash to send our way, we will appreciate it greatly.
Absolutely.
And all of this cash goes into Thrive development or our server costs, so that's all you are supporting with your money.
Yep. Okay. Question number 7. What made you limit the number of questions to your stereos to everyone in the forum slash channel? I bet once again that I'm the one involved in this. So I don't think it's him in specific. It's just the general community forums. There'll be a lot of questions asked, and there'll be not enough time to get through everything we need to talk about on live stream.
Yeah. It got to the point where people put 5 or 10 questions in their post, and then then other people just asked one question. So it's a lot more fair if we have a limit. And of course, we had to lower the general limit to 2 because there's been a few streams when many people asked questions that we couldn't answer all of them. So it's now 2 general questions per person, so that we have pretty good chance to answer everything, even if we get quite a few questions.
Okay. Well, has anyone been keeping track of the questions in the stream chat? No.
I'll show the one non-question post in this prior to questions thread while someone can find a chat question to answer. Fans of memes might enjoy this quite a bit. I saw people in our community Discord when I pinged everyone about this live stream to use the same meme, so maybe at least someone will like this one.
I like that one. Okay, there's some questions posted. Thank you. Here's the lens. Artamoon's Studios ask on how we plan to expand communication between cells. We haven't put much thought into it, but I think that opens up possibilities in the multicellular stage, where that becomes more important. Also, depending on how we implement it, bioluminescence might be an aspect of communication where, we are not really sure what exactly the function of bioluminescence is 100%, but it is often hypothesized that it kind of relates to, feedback mechanisms where, depending on the presence of bioluminescence, certain cells will engage themselves in fluorum sensing or, providing excess glucose to the environment. So perhaps that can make its way into Thrive where, if a cell is fleeing from a larger organism, then it flashes what color, and having that sort of thing could be a way of implementing bioluminescence, but we're not 100% sure yet. And I'll answer the question from Bon Apple Yi. How many updates are planned before the release of 0.9. 1 maybe. No guarantees, but 1.
Yeah, at least 1, maybe 2.
Yeah.
Depends on when the planet generator stuff is going to happen, because, well, basically everything else on the 0.8.x roadmap is basically almost done, or is just a small task that probably is going to be all completed within this 0.8.2 release cycle.
Yeah. The other big thing that's associated with the name of the update family, 0.8, is the adding more environmental events. But I assume that's a bit easier to implement than environmental tolerances.
Yeah, that just needs viable ideas about what kind of events there should be. Like it won't take that long once there's like a proper idea, or like maybe 2 or 3 more events, and then we can put those in pretty quickly and it's done.
Are the ones posted on the forums already implemented? I know the events were, but glaciation and warming and things like that, are those implemented?
No, only the patch eruption.
Okay. Well,
yeah, the vent eruption event.
I can bring up discussion on that post once we're in our way of developing this patch. Okay. We'll move on to the community questions now, unless someone else has anything to bring up. One here from Tef Core on our community forums, who asks, "Hello once more. Here are some of my burning questions. I have seen multicellular being split into 2, multicellular macroscopic in the forums, glancing over it. What does this mean going forward in terms of how the stages are planned?" Seems like we largely answered this question already. But, now the next, after 1.0, the focus of Thrive is on completing the colonial cellular stage of Thrive, where we're still in this unicellular, or this microscopic viewpoint that we have now, but we're implementing multicellular bonding mechanics.
Yeah.
And the release after that involves actual 3D gameplay, which represents the rest of the biological stages of Thrive.
We can now easily say that multicellular will be the next focus, and it's probably not going to take only a year to complete, so the period of confusion is going to be quite minimal, I think, and then we can just talk about macroscopic development.
Yeah.
Once we get that far.
The cool thing about multicellular is that it's less dynamic systems at play than everything involved in unicellular, where the environment's really shifting and everything like that, because that's a lot more stable, and it's more focused on abilities and editor mechanics. So that can be a lot more of a focused development cycle than we had with unicellular, where we had to implement every single thing that was relevant to the game right now.
Yeah, though some of the early feedback seems like that maybe someone or maybe no one tested multicellular features in the game with the environmental tolerances, so there might be a pretty major bug that makes multicellular not work at all. And that would be quite bad, and we might need to do an emergency patch on maybe Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because from the sound of this, the game actually just straight up breaks. Some of the symptoms seem like the game is just throwing an error on each processing frame, and it doesn't manage to really do what it's supposed to be doing. So that sounds pretty serious.
Yep. Okay, I'll move on to question 2, unless someone else has anything to add. What are plans of outreach once you reach 1.0? Certainly the current Steam trailer needs to be updated to reflect this, obviously. Yeah, 1.0 will be the biggest piece of news to ever happen to Thrive. That's The big, the reputation that Thrive has built up from its beginning was that it's, first vaporware, then it won't ever possibly progress past, the cellular stage. And having 1.0 is a direct, break from that. It directly shows the opposite of what these people have shown or have said. So having a complete stage in Thrive would be really massive, and it'd be really important for us to, scream everywhere we can. Thrive completes first stage. Thrive completes first stage. We have a cellular stage in Thrive. So
Yeah,
hopefully,
definitely make a trailer about the completed microbe stage.
yeah, and absolutely a morale boost. It'd be really cool to, if possible, contact previous developers for Thrive and tell them, hey, the first stage of Thrive has been completed. It doesn't have to be them, coming back on board, but just sharing that their, passion project, which they volunteered for in the past, it's moved a lot, it's progressed a lot.
Our biggest source of outreach has always been YouTuber coverage,
Yeah.
and we'll probably receive that at 1.0.
There's actually been one new Thrive player, Chancom. Or, well, they actually posted a new Thrive gameplay today.
If our community members can spam their favorite YouTubers in the comments and say, hey, play Thrive, that could be really good for publicity. So if you guys want to be bots.
Well, at least if they might be interested in biology, it seems like this. I'm not sure how to pronounce their name, but anyway, this guy seems to be actually having played multiple evolution games before, so it was pretty natural fit to play Thrive.
It'd be funny to see what a YouTuber who doesn't know much about biology, how they react to Thrive.
Yeah,
hopefully that'd be positive publicity.
Yeah, we might want to reconsider the how we make the tutorials for the game.
Yeah.
I saw that Tim was preparing some changes along those lines, so we'll see. I did have a quick look, and I think some of the changes will make the tutorial flow smoother.
Yeah. If we get down explanations of the metabolism, everything else is a lot more manageable to overcome. Because if you're starving, that's frustrating. But if you're dying specifically to, for example, tolerances or, a predator, then that's a lot more of a direct problem than, I can't build something that survives for longer than 50 seconds. Okay, I'll answer we'll go on to another community forums post, and then we can take a few questions from the live stream. Okay, from 31415, question 1, what do you think of the remaining roadmap, as in how difficult it will be to implement?
I'm probably a bit biased to answer this question because I've already split the roadmap into two, the things that are easy for me and the things that are hard for me. So you can actually see that already on the roadmap, and I've basically eliminated the 0.8.x section of the easy stuff for me. I'll probably be able to finish those for the next release, and then almost all of the 0.9x stuff as well. So we'll be soon in the situation where we are just waiting for the harder stuff that I kind of don't want to work on, and are hoping other people can help with.
Yeah, I know also, work on art assets can be long-lasting. And for example, with microbe terrain generation, we're not sure when those assets will come in. So that could be something which gets fleshed out more after 1.0 and is implemented very simply before then than something that is fully fleshed out. But
I saw
Okay,
that there's someone called I Now Thrive in the chat who said that they made Thrive videos, and sure enough, I found their channel, and well, they do have quite a few Thrive videos. Unfortunately, well, not many people have found those videos, so there aren't many views, but I'll definitely personally check out a few of the videos.
yeah, absolutely. Even if a video doesn't grab much viewership, it's still very important for us to see feedback and how players have navigated it and everything. So we really appreciate anyone who publishes their gameplay with Thrive.
Especially if they are a first-time player and they put their first reactions in the video. Those are really valuable to know how a new player reacts to something in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'll move on to question number 2 from A. What are the first features you'll want to tackle after 1.0's release? Or what are the first features you want to work on in the multicellular stage when its development period starts? Honestly, I think a lot of the first few parts of the stage will be just kind of slightly tweaking microbe stage mechanics to fit macroscopic or multicellular stages.
That's a good starting point from the design. As for the programming side of things, I think I will focus on all of the roughest edges first to get the state to a tolerable experience that doesn't drag too long and doesn't have any features that are in microbe but then disappear. Like endosymbiosis and environmental tolerances are features that currently disable themselves once you get multicellular.
Also, another important part is actually allowing Auto Evo to evolve competitively multicellular colonies. So that would be a challenging part.
That's probably the hardest part of the multicellular stage, besides the intercellular matrix graphics. Like Auto Evo and that are like the only two roadblocks I foresee that are slightly harder to do. Everything else just needs a bit of time to implement.
Yeah. The mesh tree basically just straight up works. Like what we have right now would basically just run, but I don't know how the mutation code would work. I don't want to think about it.
Will definitely get very expensive if we keep the approach of cloning the species for each attempted mutation, like cloning all of the cell type lists and stuff. That's going to get so expensive in terms of processing time and memory usage.
Maybe we just run like microbe auto evo on all the different cell types and then combine them in certain ways. But
there be a measure of, okay, we evolved with these two different cell types and some factor kind of, I don't know, I'm not an Auto Evo person. I'm probably just talking out my butt right now. But yeah, a lot of it is just putting the multicellular stage on track first, and then kind of, because I think conceptually the stage is kind of the microbe stage on crack, basically. That's the design philosophy behind it. Just souping up everything into this huge, confrontation of arms races and souped up mechanics and everything. So that'd be interesting to see flesh out. Okay. We'll answer some questions from the live stream. We'll try to go for 2 or 3. Brother Boy 2 asks if the interactable environment in 3D stage will use voxels or be more like the terrain and Spore.
I think the current prototype is not using voxels. But, well, once we get that bar, we'll see which code turns into the ultimate system to handle that.
Yeah.
Whatever it ends up being, I highly doubt it will be voxels.
Yeah. Because I know
Well-
they can be kind of limited in
Well, I
accuracy.
mean, if it falls on me, I will definitely make it using voxels, so someone else will need to make it first. You don't want that to happen.
HH's threatening people into action. If you guys don't do it, I'll do it.
Yeah, and I will use voxels for it.
Would it have difficulty interacting with whatever hyperbolic rates, if it's voxels, or are those kind of two different independent
I mean,
systems?
it would be like completely exclusive. Like either the voxel system is done, or like whatever hyperbolic is doing, like needs to be complete enough to go into the main game. Act as the system.
Because with, burrowing is very important, but, if the voxels kind of make plan generation sacrifices some things, I'd rather sacrifice a bit of burrowing over whatever sacrifice voxels creates. But we'll see, ultimately. We don't know right now.
I don't even really know how voxels plus spherical world would end up working.
I think what you do is that, well, I think I've seen some approaches where like each voxel is ever so slightly like rounded or tilted or so that then when you look into the distance, the voxels like curve away. But as you get closer, like the voxel area like flattens out around you or something like that.
Interesting.
I know they can have issues with the size of the file needed for everything if it involves voxels. So if we create a very big world to simulate them, perhaps that might be an issue.
I think that'll be an issue regardless.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Any other questions from the community or the live stream? Or okay. Well,
We have community
answer
forum questions like we aren't.
Yeah.
We are almost reaching halfway point, but not yet, so there's still plenty left.
Okay. Well, Cast96 asks, on the community forums, whenever we get the planet generator, will we get pre-made planets and potentially modding tools for pre-making planets with more precision alongside normal generation tools? And would this mean the classic map might come back in some form? Well, I think you can toggle on the classic map in the menu itself right now, unless that was a removed toggle.
It has been removed.
Oh man.
Because we've added so many systems that would have been like totally not working in the remade map, so it just had to be deleted because like nobody had like shown any screens of the playing it or talking about for multiple releases, and I had the choice of delaying some major new features or just deleting the classic map, so I just deleted the classic map.
You will almost certainly have preset world generations, but I'm not sure if we're going to have fully custom planets.
I mean, sounds like
preset settings.
Extra work for Hyperbolic to make planet editing tools as well as the generation code, so
yeah,
I would foresee that as an extra bonus thing that might happen, but is in no way guaranteed.
Having like an ice world preset or like an earth-like preset is probably going to happen.
I mean, those are stuff that's going to be like
settings.
even like in the basic generator that's planned for the 0.8 milestone. Like that will be all about, or mostly about those kind of presets, like what kind of patch map do you want to get.
Yeah, I think customization would be more, get a cold planet and you spawn more cold patches, for example. Not necessarily, oh, I'm gonna paint a planet and create my own like little planet from scratch with different mountain ranges, things like that. And obviously, it depends on Hyperbolic's comfort with everything, but we can. I think if we have a goal to aim for is kind of like Civ, where you kind of tell the map, okay, I want a more hilly map, I want a more cold map, yada yada. But specifically painting things that might require a lot more modding than we'll be offering, straight out of the menu itself. Okay, and number 2 from Cast96, when we hit 1.0, will we get another version of that through all the versions video we had seen years ago? I mentioned in Discord once that it needed to be done again. Depends on if someone will be available to create that. That'd be very cool to see.
Yeah, everyone always talks about that, and we talk about it on stream pretty much each time. And
Yeah.
I think since the last time we talked on stream, someone tried to record some of the footage, but I think their computer like crashed or something, and they lost the footage, and all the 0.4.x versions, they couldn't actually play those. And yeah, basically someone just needs to record the footage, and we need then either that person or someone else to edit it together. Like that's all it takes. Someone to put a few hours of effort into it, and it's done. But no one has volunteered and managed to do that.
That might be specifically good for 1.0 though. Extra motivation to get it done.
Yeah. 1.0 would be as good of a time as any to do that. Okay. Well, that's Cast96's question answered. So we can do another community post question and then...
do we have chat questions? Any new ones come in or...
Well, I see Sky Kid ask, as more features get added, will the game's difficulty go up with said features? Yeah, because there's a more intense learning curve associated with new features. So,
well, yeah, we would hope that it doesn't, but it kind of does. Probably will.
Yeah.
If that recent Thrive player is going to play the new release, then I guess we'll see how much more confused he gets.
That kind of is the confounding variable to a lot of my posts, where it's a question of, okay, well, 1, manpower, but 2, do we not have enough concepts already to justify, adding another thing? So that's something we always must contend with, and that's kind of a stress for us as a, team in confronting player confusion around new mechanics. And another question, when will legs be added? Who knows?
Probably
microbe?
Yeah, the macroscopic stage.
Well, at least before the end of macroscopic, probably at the latest, at the halfway point, because we need to add above water gameplay.
But you cannot attach legs to microbes, so you're not going to be seeing that for a while. Okay. We'll go through this question from the community forums. From Handy. I don't want to be such an uneducated guy, but you're not uneducated. 1, achievements. When will they get implemented? And we'll be able to suggest some of them. We talked about this already. The suggestions are always, looked at, but they need to be relevant to, was possible to track and was most relevant to the stage. And, we're going to aim for implementing a few of them before 1.0. So that'll be the opportunity for whatever suggestions to find a way in, if they do find them.
Did we answer the achievement suggestion question?
I just spoke about it right now.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So real Tom is the next question.
Okay. Real Tom asks, when macroscopic organisms in aware stage are implemented, how will this affect the creation of the creatures? Specifically, are we still going to need to create cells for them? That's the question that we oftentimes ask ourselves when it comes to the macroscopic editor. Specifically, we try to think about how involved or how we will involve microbe stage decisions in the macroscopic stage. Something like editing your cell could be important for whatever organ system we decide to implement. Where, depending on how your cells look, you might have different stats for your macroscopic organism. But obviously, one, that would involve a lot of, if we want to be very accurate, that would involve a lot of new parts, new assets, new mechanics to implement for the macroscopic microbe editor, which would be outside of the focus of the stage. And two, we need to be wary about overwhelming the player and everything. So it's something that we might look at, but it will probably be very simplified if implemented from the microbe stage.
Well, I think we will just exclude the organelles from the microbe stage, like I just added lately to probably hide the later game stuff. But I think fundamentally this is a pretty good way to look at things, that you can still modify the cell types, and those are still important in macroscopic. But well, once we are more developed on that side, then of course we'll know more, so we might need to revisit that design decision.
Yeah. And question number 2 from Real Tom. Development for the game as of late has felt extremely fast, with new benchmark versions coming out every 2 months or so. Do you have anything to say on the matter? That is most thanks due to newfound funding for the game, which has enabled us to have a full-time programmer for the team. And that's, this pace will be possible throughout more funding for the game in the future. So that is the best way to guarantee development on this game.
Yeah, and if specifically the last few releases, they've been pretty big because I've been focusing purely on new features and not really on fixes, but I think for the next release I'll need to focus a bit on the fixes, because well, we are starting to have quite many new bugs or long-standing bugs that get reported again and again. So, well, you cannot always add new features because you need to sometimes also fix the old stuff, and of course bugs that maybe aren't really fully our fault.
Okay. Well, there's a question from the community, or the live stream, that Juzo Lens brought up from Sky Kid, which I can see now. How are plants going to be handled after the cell stages? Let me see the response from the Gaming Bolas. Well, we do want to implement plants as a playable path. And we're not going to take away chloroplasts or photosynthesis from the macroscopic stage, but a full-fleshed kind of sessile mode of gameplay where you have that strategic view over, for example, plant. That'll probably take a while to get to, because our media focus will be on motile, macroscopic gameplay for the stage, since that'll be probably the majority of players wanting to play that. That's the most kind of demanding features needed. I remember Tim brought up a point a while ago where I was, questioning about our scope of implementing photosynthetic life forms, and they mentioned, well, honestly, a big part of why autotrophic gameplay is kind of desired in Thrive is because it's weird in a way. You don't really see much of that in other games where, being sessile is an actual strategy, which can be kind of fun. Obviously not as fun as movement, but it can be kind of fun in its own quirky way. So having that kind of be present in the macroscopic stage where you have this very marginal amount of energy being generated if you stay still, or glucose if you stay still. That could be really interesting to see what players create with that. But as for a dedicated plant mode or sessile mode where like there's a strategic view involved, yeah, as Juzo mentions, it's not a priority like how motile animals will be, but with time, hopefully we can get around to it, and hopefully sooner rather than later. But when it comes to their presence in Auto Evo, I think it'll need to be not as in flesh as animals, but they'll need to be present in some capacity, because that's a major source of food in Thrive for a lot of the stage. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add on that.
Did you already mention, like, I'm not sure if it was on the community forums or where it was, but like there was some discussion about like the billboarding system, like how for performance reasons we absolutely have to like not simulate plants as in depth as moving creatures, so we need to do stuff like render an image of the plant species and then put just a lot of those images all over to represent where the plant is.
That was on the dev forums.
That was.
Okay, yeah.
That was from Hyperbolic, and I generally agree.
Yeah, I didn't specifically explain that, but to explain it now, we're not going to be able to simulate, every single species of grass, for example, or bush that involves, because that would just take a lot of power and a lot of time, computational power and a lot of time to dedicate to that, to make that actually, a fully engaged thing. So we'll probably end up kind of representing that as a resource in many ways, available to Thrive, or available kind of like how compounds are represented now, where you kind of have a measure of the available biotic life in a patch, which kind of informs patch information, resource availability for herbivores, things like that. And then, for larger plants, maybe that can have a more dedicated auto evo, such as for big trees or things like that. But for the majority of plants, as the active organism, you'll probably be treating them as a compound more than, a specifically evolved organism. Yeah, lemongrass. Okay. I think that's a good way to answer that question. I'll move on to the community forums question. Okay. Tabat asks, do you think translators should translate terms like niche? The problem is that such terms are difficult to translate into some languages, and we, web-like contributors, have to invent our own translations. That's a good question, Tim did invent a word.
No.
Yeah, niche, yeah.
That's made up for Thrive specifically. I feel like it probably should just stay in that form.
Well,
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's based on an English word, so I mean, the ancient translation guidelines says that for that case you should like use a similar process, like pick your language's word for niche and then put the word multi in your language somewhere near it and try to mush them together. Like that should be the process to try to come up with a replacement term. But of course, if you cannot make one, there's no good candidates, then I think using the English term like what we've come up with would be pretty good solution as well.
There are a couple posts from them talking about how they regret naming it Mish because they're going to have to explain that forever.
Yeah. Them influenced the language of a pretty, a decently sized community on the internet. He actually has an effect on the dictionary we use, so that's very impressive.
And then gets asked every time somebody wants to know the definition of the word.
Yep. From now on, if someone asks that, we'll just link the video of him screaming at Lance. And that'll be the sole explanation we give. No other context is needed. Tim says, I would like to apologize to anyone for my language where N and M are indistinct noises. Huh. Someone in the chat said, I thought that was just a misspelling. Whoops. Oh, man. Okay, question number 2 from Tabat is, what are your hopes for Thrive's development in the near future? Same or continued or improved pace. I think this pace of development has really kind of rekindled my belief in Thrive being completed. Or I guess not rekindled, but kind of cemented it. But the big question now is continuing that, the source of that development, which is financing. So if we are able to continue to finance Thrive through, your contributions to the game, which we deeply appreciate, that being really good things to the project, and I can see it going very far. But, it's been really great the past year and a half, maybe 2 years, of seeing what that effect has been on the team and development pace. Thrive has really fleshed itself out in the past 2 years. So. Okay. Any questions from the live stream or any other thoughts?
The chat speed has gone down a bit. Oh, it's up, actually. YouTube reported a bit ago that the chat rate was 0. Now it's up to 2, so surely someone had something to say in the chat.
Well, Mr. 42 asked, shouldn't cellulose walls give some glucose when digested?
Cells do give glucose when digested.
Yeah, they do.
Though I guess that kind of is. I guess technically we haven't simulated like the makeup of the cellular walls in the reproduction cost, which could theoretically be added, but you need to modify at least 10 places in the code, so that would be a pretty difficult edit to do, but someone could do it if they wanted.
Yeah.
How would you even do that for some of the cell wall types? I'm blanking on their names.
Well, the silica membrane.
Yeah, silica.
That's kind of tempered by acidity, which we don't really represent in Thrive. So.
Well, you could use it as a benefit if you are a worse food source because your cell wall doesn't give any bonus resources.
Yeah. I now Thrive ask, would it be possible to create an animal-plant hybrid? I mean, that kind of happens now, heterotroph and autotroph combination. In the future, yeah, it might not be that successful as it is in, real life. Because the amount of energy you get from photosynthesis kind of doesn't justify a lot of adaptations that plants do take to become more efficient at photosynthesis. So it kind of becomes a marginal thing that can be lost through time for motile organisms. But there's nothing stopping you. It'll just probably be less efficient as time goes on.
I think there's one lizard who gets 30% of its energy from photosynthesis, and then nothing else even comes close to that.
Yeah, and there's some very simple, very small animals. I'm not sure. I think, something like worms and other very simple organisms which can ingest algae and kind of receive benefits from that. But they choose to, create those organisms into endosymbionts rather than have that be an inherent capacity of their self. So it's probably marginal once you get to enough scale. Aaron mentions animal, plant, fungi. Distinction is entirely a result of Earth's evolutionary history. Many Thrive organisms will not be easily defined as any of these, and I love that. New Zealand, yeah. I recall a sea slug using cyanobacteria to get some energy. Looks like a weird green rabbit. Yeah. I think it's that one. Yeah, good call out. Okay, we'll move on to questions from the community forums, and it seems like we have good pace of chat questions, so we can answer a lot of those near the end. Human asks, oh, did someone join? Oh, Tim.
I sit down, I start watching the stream, and then I get summoned, so here I am.
Welcome. There's someone who thought that niches was a mispronunciation, so if you want to yell at them, like yell at Lawns, go ahead.
This one is my sins. Lawns are someone else's doing.
Yeah, okay. Good point. Thim is one of our programmers. Do you want to introduce yourself, or?
Hey, I'm Thim. I did nothing during this release, which is why I wasn't originally going to hop on this podcast. But yes, I've worked on a lot of stuff. The Auto Evo is one of my favorites. Made a whole video on that. I yelled at Lawns.
Yeah, we bully Thim a lot because he creates a lot of content for Thrive and a lot of iconic moments, so here's our punching bag, unfortunately.
Thim's catchphrase, I yell at Lawns.
Of course. He created the whole foundation of the Auto Evo, but that's kind of like what we make fun of him for. Really unfortunate.
You never know what 15 seconds make you famous.
Yeah. But yeah, seriously, he's been great help with Auto Evo, especially. So a lot of the game is thanks to him, and of course, Game Dungeon. Okay, answering the post from Human. One, is thermosynthesis UI final? Have you considered other routes for depicting it? I think it's pretty final at this point, I would assume. I don't remember any other concept attached to it that isn't what we already have implemented. I have a question for Arlene. Is it more powerful in warmer environments? Like in warmer patches?
You mean the new thermosynthesis implementation, right?
Yeah, is it warmer? Does it generate more energy in like near hydrothermal vents?
Yeah, well, basically, as someone, like, I forgot to put in the code that makes it so that the warmer patches aren't like negative 20 degrees Celsius to like plus 40. Like, I forgot to put that code in, but when I did, I think I've probably mostly made it so that you cannot use thermosynthesis outside the vents, sort of like how it's intended to work. So it might be balanced a bit lower than it was before, but basically there's like 20 degrees C is like the minimum temperature after which the thermosynthesis can even produce any energy. So here with the service patches you can technically make a bit of energy, but not much at all.
Okay. Yeah, that's basically, at least from what I recall, the full, a very adequate amount of mechanics for the future, so I'm pretty satisfied with it. Okay, and question 2 from you.
No, Auto Evo definitely did not get updated with the thermosynthesis change.
Yeah, I assume not. Okay, so Auto Evo, that's another thing that we can implement for it. But everything else in terms of actual gameplay, I think that's pretty set.
I reasoned that because the gameplay is basically moving around between the cold and hot areas, like microbes do that automatically, like or not automatically, but the old code will already do that. So I considered that it's similar enough to other energy stuff that it probably doesn't need any custom handling. But if someone wants to make custom handling, then I will welcome it. But I haven't opened an issue because I think it's probably similar enough.
We'll see if cells are randomly starving in the vents or not.
Okay. Question number 2.
Did anyone want to mention the UI? Because, well, I really quickly slapped it together and, well, I will call it good enough. But if someone else wants to try to improve it, then feel free.
I think it's good as is. Or one of our graphics artists might, work on it, but it's pretty good as is, in my opinion. Okay. Question number 2 from Human is: are there any plans for storage rework? For example, allocatable storage rather than storage applying the full amount to all compounds that you use even a little bit. I assume that means, dedicated storage for a specific compound or, I don't know, or
I have that.
Oh, we have that
upgrade
already?
for the vacuole.
Yeah, specialized vacuole is already this feature.
Oh, well, there you go. There's your answer. It's already in the game.
Yeah,
So have fun
but
with that.
it takes quite a bit of looking to find it.
Somebody
It's-
added upgrade support to Auto Evo, and I wonder if that came as part of that for free.
Probably not, because the mutation step is configured so that you need to specify it what mutations it tries. So we need to add those mutation trying stuff, like you can either set it to try one of the string type upgrades that are feature flags, or it can generate a new organelle upgrades object and specify the values in it that it wants to set.
Probably an easy change to make.
Yeah, though I'm not looking forward to AutoEvo generating even more temporary species, because I think it gets slower each time.
That'd be a good bit to refactor and work out now while AutoEvo is still doing comparatively simple things.
Yeah, well,
like I said earlier, I plan to rewrite part of the mutation code. They'll still have that issue, but it should make considerably less of them.
well, that's at least an improvement, though ever since the new AutoEvo, I think there's been the open issue about limiting the number of species clone calls, because those are pretty terrible.
Okay.
I think
Are
those
those all the
were
questions?
those were all of the pre-stream questions.
Okay, well, this opens up the floor to live stream questions. So if you guys have a lot of questions, spam it. And if anyone has anyone been keeping track of questions recently on the live stream? I can browse through them real quick. Oh, Sky Kid Minch asks, has Godot been getting in the way of development sometimes? I know sometimes it has been, from what I hear.
Overall, it's fine, but occasionally it does something weird. But kind of all engines do that.
It used to be more of a problem before. The new update kind of fixed a lot, but I know a lot of the artists kind of had their headaches with it before.
Writing a custom engine would be worse.
Yeah. We had that for a bit.
Yeah, at least in terms of how easily you can get new people to agree to use it. And especially artists who are mostly allergic to even opening the game engine editor to import their stuff.
Builder Boy asked, on the topic of plants, will all plants naturally evolve or degenerate with the world like in Spore, or a mix of both? We largely answered that mostly, but it will still be procedural, but it would mostly be, images of plants rather than a full-fledged simulation of individual species, individual blades of grass, and everything like that.
At least the hope
Clarify,
is that
that is actually what most games do.
Yeah,
It's
they'll
just
board
not super visual.
I hope at least that we can kind of fit like grass into AutoEvo, so that AutoEvo will modify the species, etc., grow them, but of course,
shouldn't
like
be
for performance,
that bad for Auto Evo.
then we'll not have like during gameplay the species don't get to act like animal species.
Yeah.
Another thing I don't want to think about, auto evo and metal balls.
Yeah.
Hopefully, based on my experiments in my other game, the branching functionality should work for some stuff. I think it's once you get like a spine, you're supposed to have shapes that more look animal-like. This is where I'm starting to ask questions. But obviously none of this has been tried out in Thrive, so it's all theoretical.
I think we need to be clear about what stats are represented through different actions in the editor first. And from there, I think that reveals actions, or that reveals answers on auto evo. Because, what particularly makes me worry is the dedicated part editor, where we talk about mouths and graspers and things like that. If we don't have some defined structure underlying it, then it can be really, really difficult. And to make useful creatures that also look kind of decent. Game Dungeon, I remember you mentioned a while ago, there's an engineering program out there. You mentioned just copy and paste that, except for organelle, or organs and parts and everything like that. Your Highness Gaming asks, when will a floor to the sea be added during the early Motar service stage? Well, I assume they mean macroscopic, but that's one of the biomes, and that's a significant portion of the ocean, so it'll be a priority environment. At first, I assume, depending on how, work goes in terms of assets and everything like that, we'll probably mostly have everything be in a few patches, or maybe even one, and then expand them as time goes on in the macroscopic stage.
I would expect the swimming around part to be done first.
Yeah.
In macroscopic, and only then some of the floor stuff and going on land.
Oh god. Mr. 42 with the satanic question.
Someone has invented a clever way to ask the question.
Yeah. Alb also says, I wonder how auto evo will manage to evolve body plans throughout a few generations without adding a lot of random legs or out-of-context organs. Like we see some related creatures in real life having only 4 limbs. I think making, the way we can deal with it with players themselves is making it just really expensive to evolve a whole other limb, and a lot more cheap to modify an existing limb. So if a similar process can be represented for auto evo, then perhaps that can be more easy taken care of. Sky Kid asks, is there going to be a feature to hibernate your species for a few evolution turns, like when a tardigrade goes into its ton state? That could be an interesting behavior in the macroscopic stage, where you can skip a bad hibernation spawn and respawn, I guess, maybe. But that's not a priority right now, and I assume hibernation is a lot more
evolution terms.
Yeah, so you skip a few
long period of time.
Yeah, that is a long period of time. I think if it is implemented, it would be like, okay, I don't like the spawn, let me spawn somewhere else. So you make your organism go into hibernation and move to a different part of the patch in the same generation. But that depends on future stages.
I'd appreciate a 300 million year nap.
Yeah, but
you'd wake up and Thrive might be done.
Maybe.
Reminds me of the old meme someone posted where a microbe is waking up and says that they can't wait to see their favorite non-oxygen atmosphere. By the way, I'm going to play a little bit of Thrive on the stream. We have less than 30 minutes left, but a little bit of time, so...
Yeah. You get to see the greatest Thrive player of all time play Thrive on the live stream.
We'll see if I can find a radioactive rock from somewhere. Yeah, there's one. I'll probably actually, because there's been a bug report about multicellular not working, I'll probably like activate seeds in like just a moment to quickly get there to see what happens in multicellular, because either no one has tested it or it truly, or like no one has tested it and it is truly like actually totally broken, or then the person reporting the issue ran into kind of rare bug. But everyone else, you can keep answering chat questions, and if you want me to answer something, then try to get my attention.
Yeah, I hadn't thought to test in multicellular for most of this release, unfortunately.
Well, people usually test the multicellular prototypes during the release candidate testing phase, so I assumed we were fine because no one reported a bug.
The other boy asks a bit of a silly question. After entering the editor, how many hours do you think it would take for a mid-range PC to actually simulate Auto Evo, as to remove all discrepancy in the ecosystem's balance? I don't fully understand what is being asked. After entering the editor, how many hours do you think it would take for a mid-range PC to actually simulate Auto Evo?
I think
As
they
to
mean
move
that like if we didn't have the simplified Auto Evo system, like how long would we need to like run the micro stage for to get like similar results? And I think
Like,
People run like normal evolution sims for like weeks, and you can see like sped up videos of them on YouTube.
yeah, I mean,
Those
I
are
would assume
simpler
that
than Thrive is now.
similar thing would need to happen to Thrive, because we can only run the game like at 5 times speed, and like if we can probably test like I don't know, like I think maybe an hour would be kind of reasonable time, because you need to test a few like, well, I guess if we didn't have directed mutations, we would need to test like 20 or 30 mutations per species, and to remove variance we would need to do multiple runs, and we can probably simulate only 100 cells at once.
This was years ago, but at one point I tried to implement a basic version of Thrive as a GPU shader so I could run it in parallel and simulate versions of Thrive like 100 times at the same time.
how'd that go?
I was not very good at GPU shaders, so limited success, but we would have to do something along those lines, I think, to make it into a game.
Yeah, and then someone will try to use a 12-year-old laptop to run it with really old Intel
With no
integrated
GPU.
graphics. Yeah.
One question from Builder Boy is, how do you plan on implementing 3D movement for aquatic life? I remember that was the main reason Spore didn't add an aquatic stage. I think the most kind of pressing... Oh man, I just saw a cell die from radiation poisoning. I think the most pressing thing is figuring out, the procedural animation for that and stats in terms of, okay, how streamlined an organism is and everything related to that. But
Airplane controls, maybe?
you said what?
Like, airplane controls for something like War Thunder or another game, where
Like
you kind
throttle
of
and
point
everything?
based on the mouse, and then you go forward, backwards.
That'd be interesting, yeah. I remember someone mentioned, I think it'd be hard to like edit like yaw, I think it's called, yaw, like kind of like the angle at which you rotate. But this was a while ago, before we had like this version of Godot. So
I
maybe
mean,
that'd be better.
I think we should go for like pretty simple swimming system,
Yeah,
where like you don't have like 6 degrees of freedom, like your creature will try to naturally like stay upright, but when you turn, like it would like animate quite smoothly to turn bit and stuff.
Yeah. And depending on how your limbs are and where your structure is. I remember I wrote something a while ago about the earliest stages of the macroscopic stage, where we could have it so that more buoyant creatures have an easier time going up, but take more energy to go down, whereas the opposite is true for more benthic organisms. So that could be, I think that opens up a lot of really cool, things with Thrive, where 3D movement and evolution combined would be really interesting to see simulated. And if done well, that could be just a big part of the appeal of the stage. So. Someone in the chat just said, breaking news, Thrive creator found cheating in the game.
Fortunately, this is the only way to get to Multicellular within the time limits of the stream. Seems there's
Were there
still
any
that,
updates to Multicellular?
that
Sorry, go ahead.
that rare bug where the cell process list sometimes reorders itself. I thought I fixed that.
Then what did you ask?
Is there anything new in Multicellular to show off? I've been out of the loop, as you guys know.
Someone posted on the forums that like it's totally broken. Like I expect there's some core gameplay system starts throwing exceptions each frame, and it just totally broke the game. So
Okay, well that's something different.
yeah, I'm quite concerned if that's actually the case or not, because if it is, then that's obviously pretty bad.
Hotfix patching in.
Yeah, I was saying that if it's actually the case, we might need to release a hotfix on like Monday or Tuesday.
Huh?
Of course, we could just use the Coca-Cola marketing method and just say that's how it's meant to be now, and everyone should accept it. And then in the next version, we say we're releasing the classic version where it's enjoyable again.
Yeah. Negative publicity is still publicity.
Okay, game didn't crash yet. I had a breakpoint. No worries, people.
May asks, are there any plans to add an organelle to let you anchor yourself to chunk/push them around? It's conceptualized, but if it's actually implemented, it'll probably depend on a volunteer rather than a full-time programmer.
Where you grab a chunk?
Yeah.
People have wanted holdfasts for a while.
Yeah.
And that people include several devs.
Yeah. I assume it's not too hard of something to implement.
I mean, it could be something like, remember a few years ago when Oliver returned and just made the slime jet just because he wanted to.
Yeah.
Well, I think could happen.
That was a good feature. Thank God he chose that one. I assume that'd be easier to implement over a slime jet. Just walk up to something, attach to it, bam.
Well, it needs
Only issue is
probably one tiny physics engine binding change, but too bad. Well, actually, it's pretty bad for someone who just wants to work on the C# side of things and doesn't want to touch the C++ thing at all.
rewrite Thrive in Rust.
Just get a bunch of cilia, fake it.
Okay, let's see. Is everything broken? Okay, so the report was that everything is fine, like here initially. Malvision works, thermosynthesis works, everything works. It did before, but once I grow the second cell, everything should break.
Will the Thrive developers crash the game on a game-ending bug in their promotional live stream. Stay tuned.
It's pretty suitable that we have the Thrive main theme going on right now from the music bot.
Feels like we're in NASA, just waiting for something to explode in midair.
I thought they were hoping it didn't explode.
Oh, we're hoping it doesn't explode. What are you hoping for, Sam?
I hope that we leave the code better than we found it.
Okay, good answer.
Well, so that's a vote for no serious. Gosh, okay, something happened.
I'll answer a question in the meantime. Peter Kinkle asks, how much focus will there be on Animal/Aware stage? And Spore felt more like a prequel to the lair stages, in my opinion. I'd probably like to just stay at that stage. Me too. Well, it's probably the most unique stage of Thrive, so a big emphasis will be placed on it, because there are other space simulations, there are other Civ simulations, but there aren't really that many simulations of the micro stage, or the micro mechanics and evolution of the animals themselves. So, in my opinion, I think that should be a really important part of the experience, and should probably get a lot of attention.
It kind of seems like there is actually something pretty wrong with the second shell that spawns, like it cannot run processes for some reason or something. There's no immediate errors detected, but it's just like dying immediately.
I think someone did say in the last couple of days that they had a problem with the second cell just not functioning at all, but didn't give many details. It'd be the same thing.
Yeah, it does definitely look like that's a problem. So yeah, multicellular is actually now singular cellular in the game right now. Second
Let's
cell
rename the stage.
will just die. So yeah, I think this is a serious enough bug that we need to like release a hotfix pretty much before anyone notices this or tries to make a YouTube video.
Well, good thing we're live streaming it right now.
Yeah, don't tell anyone that this bug is in the game and don't report it.
All 35 of you watching right now, just look away right now.
Quite interesting how the game UI scales with the aspect ratio. At least that this bar is like not really intended to go there, but oh well, I guess it does technically work, but different aspect ratios is not perfectly supported right now. Yeah, I guess I know what I will do on Monday, or if I want to give up my one Thrive free day this week, which is tomorrow. Trying to fix this problem.
We had a fix of something that has to do with full screen, right?
Yeah, Windows full screen mode should no longer have 1 pixel borders on it.
Oh yeah. That's a massive thing.
Yes, I'll just confirm that the later date stuff is not going to be bugged. To start the drive capture. Yeah, everything in the later prototypes, everything seems pretty fine. Those didn't manage to magically break, but like no one is going to be able to get this far.
Well, I'll ask something for the chat in the meantime for these last 10 minutes. What is something you guys are looking for immensely in the future of Thrive development? Like features, experience, whatever. And developers too. Oh, I was gonna say it might be worthwhile to have, if possible, a direct link to the macroscopic editor from the menu as a tool, because that is a pretty important feature that we have implemented right now.
Well, I mean, the editor is pretty basic.
Yeah, but still, a lot of people like creating creative things with it.
Remember when macroscopic was just a bunch of spheres and people spent like all day just stacking spheres into
Yeah.
creative things? Wasted all this time on a video game.
Yeah.
I guess I had the idea that would be pretty nice if like you needed to actually get to the stage before you get the rebuild for it. Like I think that would be pretty nice for the
I
Yeah.
think
macroscopic.
that's actually how Spore does it.
That's how it deals with the actual like progression. You can access the editor in the menu, but in terms of actually getting to like a creature stage, for example, you have to reach that creature stage first in order to start from it.
Yeah, I'd like to see the same thing in Thrive as like the free build is kind of like a reward for completing the earlier part.
Mm.
And that's also the reason like why you cannot advance stages in free build, because well, it's free build, so you shouldn't be able to cheat your way the end of the game. Well, I guess the good news is that the later prototypes works, but Multicellular has a problem. That's probably going to be a hotfix path. That's going to prevent quite a lot of stuff. And a bit unfortunate that no one caught it in the RC stage. So I guess it's kind of understandable as the time of year is there's way less people trying stuff and will probably watch the stream than usual.
Yeah, the busiest tends to be summer and Christmas time. Or end of the year in general, because that's when things slow down a lot when it comes to work and school.
Yeah. Did anything fun happen in chat while I was playing and not paying attention?
Someone says that they're looking forward to playing as a tree since they've never done that before in a video game or in real life. Someone is hyped for the fact that we're developing the game. Oh, Thor the Doge. Can we eat radioactive bits and still get energy from them? You can't eat the bits themselves, but you can float around them and get energy that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I just didn't want to deal with all of the bugs, so I disabled engulfing on those chunks.
Yeah. Also, probably just is a better way to make sure things are somewhat realistic. Or not that, it's not realistic now, but consuming radioactivity is a whole different thing. I could ask, since Thrive is open source, is it possible that in the far future there could be distros of Thrive, or distros like of Thrive like Linux?
I guess I can see that happening, though people would call them like full conversion mods or something like that.
Or forks, maybe.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of like the terminology that's kind of establishing itself. I was more thinking from the like general modders viewpoint what they would call them. So I suppose
There are two of those.
yeah, though I suppose like the forks of Thrive will become pretty established term. So I hope that people will still make more mods than forks, because you cannot play two forks at the same time, but you can most of the time you could play with 2 separate mods on at once if you want to mix them.
Input from the chat seems to have slowed down a good amount, so we can find our way to a stopping point. If we
Yeah,
wish.
yeah, we are really close to the 2-hour mark already, so
Yeah.
we can
Well-
start to consider closing the stream.
Yeah. Well, it seems like there are no last-minute questions. So
Or will
we want to thank.
someone ask one more question? Anyone in chat
Okay,
still?
well,
We have
we'll take one more
34
question.
viewers
from chat.
still. Someone's one final burning question. Exclusive
Yes.
access to the dev team. Now's
Make
your
it good.
chance.
Make it worth our time. When will the stream end? Well,
If no one asks anything, then in like 45 seconds.
yeah, Sky Kid, that was their question. So, we've only gotten a question about when will the stream end. So, I think that's a sign of things.
We could just answer now and end the stream.
Yeah, if we could.
Well, I guess it's time to end the stream then. So
Yeah, that's your answer. Okay,
guess-
well,
Deus, if you
Farewell,
want to
everyone.
say farewells to everyone or something, I'll let you take the lead on closing the stream.
okay. Well, thank you everyone for attending another Thrive live stream. We really appreciate your support and attention in our little humble project as we complete our first stage. Stay tuned. In the future, we'll have another release to you and probably some fixes very soon. Join our community Discord, our community forums. Support us on Patreon or on Steam if possible. And once again, we really appreciate you. We'll see you when we see you.
All right, everyone, thanks for joining the stream. Let's say final bye, and I'll end the stream. Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Farewell.
See you guys.